All right, hello YouTube. I've got with me, I'm calling her Sindel for now. She is my Sumatran short-tailed python. She's an absolute sweetheart. She's still a little skittish sometimes, a little nervous, curious about things that are going on, but that's because I've only had her for just about 2 weeks. She's finally, taking her first meal with me, so this is kind of the first time I'm going to really have her out and handle her basically for my pleasure, but I'm not going to have her out for too long. I just already dealt with all my other snakes today. It's been kind of a cage maintenance and cleaning day. But anyway, the purpose of this video is going to just be to introduce myself and this channel and what the purpose of this channel is going to be. So my name is Adam, and I've been keeping exotics for about 9 years as far as animals go, but I've only been keeping snakes for maybe 3.5. I got into keeping exotics with tarantulas, and I've had hundreds of those buggers basically. I got one at a convention one year, and then within 4 months I had 16. Within a year I had 20 plus. Within 2 years I had 30, and I was trading and lending them out for breeding loans, getting really involved with that hobby, and just really interested in kind of watching those animals, seeing them thrive, and I really enjoyed it for a long time. But I recently downsized that collection as I moved. I'm going to be moving again, and it just got tougher sometimes with limited space to, even though they don't take up a lot of space, to just be kind of putting all those enclosures and spots. And for a while I got so carried away with it, and I don't ever want to do this again, that I started to enjoy kind of keeping them a little less. They became more like mouths to feed and enclosures to clean rather than animals I really enjoyed working with. But I was reinvigorated into the passion of working with animals when I got my first snake. And you'll meet her at some point. She's a little normal ball python. And I started out just with absolute idiot poor husbandry. I had her in a 10-gallon tank on some kind of bark substrate, Eco Earth at first even. There was, I had to have an under tank heater and a ceramic heat emitter on top, just so like 2 heat sources. I had her on, cheap Jumpstart and Zilla thermostats, all sorts of stuff. But about a year into keeping, I was introduced to a really good Facebook group with a bunch of experienced keepers, and I started taking some serious notes. I got her into a tub setup, eventually got her into a PVC setup. I acquired myself a boa constrictor as well, got him in a nice PVC cage. And even since then I've had, and I'll go over all this kind of stuff with you guys too, I had all kinds of ups and downs. I've eventually settled on just tubs and rack systems for all my animals. They're all doing a lot better. But I've only worked with 6 snakes so far, and I only currently keep 5. One I ended up taking a trade for after a little while. So, there's kind of my extent with the hobby. This girl here is my newest, as I said. I've only had her for a couple weeks. I never thought myself getting into short tail or blood pythons, but over the past probably 6 months I've been getting more and more intrigued with them. The channel that got me into that, you should check it out. I'll link it in the description, is Dan Magano Snakes. So, and he was another one who was part of that Facebook group full of just real dedicated keepers versus just people who kind of coddle you and just, are there just to see the snakes and see them looking cute and stuff like that. But instead, I was learning from breeders and just other collectors who really knew their stuff. And my whole thing has been kind of, I've loved snakes since I was a little kid. I've loved like all kinds of reptiles. I never grew out of my dinosaur phase and things like that, sharks. But snakes were always my favorite when I was a child as far as reptiles went. I used to go outside and hunt for garter snakes in the yard, and those would be the only ones you could find around where I live. Good girl. Anyway, I wanted a pet snake as a kid. So bad. So bad. and my parents would never let me get one. They said it'll get out. That was their big thing. And sure enough, I've had 2 escapes since I've been working with these animals. One was that ball python. She weaseled her way out of that PVC cage. I couldn't believe that she found her way out, but I, was able to see how she did, escape-proofed it, and eventually, like I said, it was part of why I got them in rack systems. And I had a Dumeral's boa make his way out of one of my temporary enclosures, and that was just one of those things where, man, I had a tub that just wasn't as secure as I thought. So they indeed are escape artists, and they'll get out if you give them an opportunity. But like I said, my parents, they wouldn't let me get one, so I went my whole life without my pet snake. But I think about it now, if I was 10 years old, 6 years old, 8 years old, even in 12, 13, if I had one, there's no way I would have been able to learn the way that I do now and give them the kind of care and attention, and definitely wouldn't have been able to spend the kind of money that I have on them. So it's probably better off for the animals that I didn't have them at a young age and got into them more at my 30s. But as far as I'm concerned, getting into keeping these animals, I'm not a big breeder. I'm not trying to start a business in selling or anything like that. I would love one day to maybe get into, maybe having a couple staple species that I could breed, but again, I'm not trying to be a distributor. That would be more to help educate me on how these animals work, and then to be able to offer some and propagate the hobby. That would be what I would look at something like breeding like. But for now, I just want a nice varied collection, and to continue to work with them, because they bring me more happiness than anything else that I do. Now, I've got a lot of hobbies. I'm a video gamer, play guitar. I was a competitive power lifter for a while. I even run my own personal training studio. But nothing brings me the kind of satisfaction that working with these animals does. And basically, I want to share that with everyone else, and the audience that I'm really looking for. Obviously, anyone is welcome to come and watch. But I want to get into that person who I was a couple years ago. And I want those people to kind of be able to see a channel that isn't just, a doctor, herpetology, or another huge breeder of snakes, but just another guy who has a few of these animals, started out as pets, got a little bit more into a small collection and a hobby, and for us to be able to share experiences and grow together, because I am absolutely no expert. I am still learning, and I hope that I can share something like this with you guys for years and years to come as you watch this collection grow and see where I go as far as my keeping goes and as far as this hobby goes. So I want to be able to approach people, like I said, from the perspective of the average snake keeper. So I've got just a few, but even though I've got just a few and only a few years, like I said, just maybe 3.5 of experience keeping these animals, I've already run into tons of hiccups, tons of experiences basically that I've learned from, that I want to share to people who are just getting into the hobby. Or even if you're not, let's say you've realized you've had a snake or two or whatever for a couple years, and now all of a sudden you're realizing, man, I'm learning all these new things about husbandry and care, or my animal got sick and I had to take it to the vet and I want to reach out and learn a little bit more. These are the kinds of things that I want to be able to talk about with you guys. These are the experiences that I want to be able to share, because I've had tons of up and downs in only 3.5 years. I've had vet visits, I've had animals not happy in enclosures that I thought were top of the line. I've experienced a little bit. In fact, it took me a good while to feel confident enough to add this girl to my collection, even, because I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't having any more issues with just the 4 that I had. So there's kind of my perspective where I come from. Sorry if this is kind of a little bit of rambling, but like I said, the goal of this channel really is to just kind of share the experiences from a small-time guy and connect with other small-time guys and gals. So anyway, we'll see kind of what this channel has to come with. I'll share things just like my own husbandry ideas, what I did in the past, what I do now, how I can set up temporary enclosures, things like that, what my rack system looks like, cleaning, maintenance, how I feed, and just the ways I like to interact with these animals. I'll show off the rest of my collection. I'll do a little bit more on her. I want to kind of get her back, just because, like I said, she's doing real well right now, but I don't want to take her out too long since I'm still kind of getting her used to me. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. This is going to be a small channel for now, probably slow growing, but I'm okay with that. Anything that I can do right now that gets me more into interacting and working with these animals, that brings me that joy. So hopefully it brings a couple of you that same.